When looking for RC products on the web, check out rcdeal.com. This segment is sponsored by rcdeal.com.
DJ with Offna again, showing you the other kit, the GT-V2 Pro Electric 80% roller. Of course, we have a part number for it, and it'll be described on the side of the box. On the zip tag on there, it'll be 14283. That'll be the roller. Of course, this uses the same box as you can see from the other car kit, which is the nitro version. So we'll get into the box. We'll show you what the electric car is all about. All right. We'll open up the box. Look into the car kit itself. You're going to see, of course, a number of bags in there. Of course, the clear body itself. The decal sheet, which comes in V2e and the regular V2, of course, and there's tons of decals for that, so you can decal anything you want besides the car if you need to. We'll pull that aside, and we'll show you the shop bag kit. Of course, the shop bag kit is showing you here is full aluminum shocks, aluminum caps, threaded collars, of course, and there's all the hardware in there necessary that you're going to see in there. You're going to see the oil itself, and there's plenty of oil to see in there. Of course, the hardware bag for the pistons, the nitride shock shafts, all the screws and hardware that you're going to need, and then the springs themselves. So this is about the only necessary build onto the car for the chassis. Of course, we'll pull out the body itself, and you're going to see a wing. Of course, there's a clear wing in there you'll be able to paint. Also, the body itself, and this is the F-type body. Of course, the decal sheet's in the bag. And if you want to mask a couple items in there to show a little bit more detail, you'll be able to do that. And the body itself is got a paint mask on it to protect it from overspray. We'll pull the car kit out, and of course at the very bottom will be your instructions and other small items of paperwork that you'll see in the kit. First, we'll get this box out of the way. We'll show you the kit itself. The full-on kit, of course, like I said, is a roller. We have it here assembled with shocks just to show you what it's like from ride height stance. And we'll break down on the car and show you what's going on with this vehicle. Of course, CVAs will run down the entire car from the center to the front and to the rear of the car for powertrain. Like I said, the shocks themselves, they are full volume shocks, basically big bores, but they are shortened. So they have enough dampening and volume on the shocks to get this car rolling and not scrape so much on the ground. So good seals on there, nitride shock shafts to the shocks. Of course, we'll get to the front of the car and we'll show you the front of the car as in the bumper. Of course, that is a full impact bumper, very, very heavy duty. It has double deck on there, of course, and it's flush at the very bottom of the chassis itself, so it keeps the low line of the car as low as possible. Of course, there's body mounts up here in the front that also are adjustable by pulling the shocks out themselves, and you'll be able to adjust ride height to any multiple body that we will offer for the V2s. All right. Shocks themselves, of course, you can see right here, they're already mounted nitride shock shafts, aluminum shocks themselves. And these are very, very small and short shocks, and you'll be able to get option springs in the near future for different ride heights and tensions. The CVAs themselves, we'll try to get a good close-up on the CVAs and the steering system, of course. You're going to see a full kingpin steering. This is more of a modern type of kingpin steering rather than the old style, where it offers plenty of steering from left to right, of course. You're going to see right there. And mounted to that will be bearings into the hub, followed along with the CVA that you're going to see in the front. Of course, they are laser etched in themselves, and I'm trying to find the number, of course. It's in the inside of the shock, actually. You'll see the little etching emblem right about there, and they'll have the measurement sides on the CVAs themselves for all the way around. Of course, the car is equipped with sway bars, and that's front and rear, so you'll be able to get sway bars, and hopefully we'll have sway bars with different tensions on there. The turnbuckles themselves, you'll get a good view of the turnbuckles, and hopefully we'll try to get a better angle on those turnbuckles. There we go, good angle on the turnbuckles. You're going to see turnbuckles all the way around, front and back, and also on the steering and the steering servo itself. They are fully adjustable. They are stainless steel turnbuckles, and a great option to have on a pro car for good tweak and camber settings. Okay, the arms themselves, of course, they're heavy duty arms. They come from the buggy cousin itself. Very strong, very thick. To see damage from these is going to be quite a large hit, so that's an awesome thing to see on there for this car. Shock towers, of course, front and rear, they are hard-coated shock bodies, or shock towers, I should say, and they have plenty of adjustments on shock setup and also roll center for them. All right, we'll get to the back of the car, take a look at the rear of the car. And of course, it also has a rear bumper on the back, and that rear bumper also acts as a diffuser as the camera pans down. And you'll also notice that it has a hard-coated hinge pin holder, which on the rear of the car, you're going to have 2 CNC hinge pin holders on there with captured hinge pins. So you'll get a lot of setup out of that. You'll be able to do the adjustments on that. On the front, there'll be 1 hinge pin holder that's in CNC aluminum, and that'll be the very front one on there connected to the bumper. Like I said, the bumper itself, it acts like a diffuser, so it has a lot of high-speed stability, especially through the corners themselves. Really nice looking bumper. Of course, you can see the gills that offer the diffuser kind of system on there, and also acts like a holder to the back of the car when you want to take it to the track and carry it around. Shock tower itself, of course, like I said, it's a hard-coated shock tower. This one's the 4mm shock tower on the back, hard-coated, and multiple shock positions, as you can see, for the camber links, and also on the upper shock towers themselves. You'll notice that. CVDs also on that car are going to show on the rear, and hopefully we get a better shot of that etching on that CVD on the rear. And you're going to notice on that CVD, next to that will be the outdrive. The outdrive itself, when I give it a little turn, is a lightweight outdrive. So you're going to get full-on pro parts from the gearing, which the gearing is spiral gear, oil-filled diffs, and that will be on 2 gears. Of course, the center is a spool itself. So you'll have 2 differentials, oil-filled, spiral gears on the pinion and the bevel gear itself, connected to lightweight outdrives. All right. Now we'll get down to the center of the car, and we'll get a good picture of the center of the car. Of course, this is side saddle batteries that you're going to see on the car, and of course, there are 6 offness straps located on here. You can either do the option of running 2 or 4. Of course, the more straps, the more secure the battery stays in. These are side saddles, so you'll be able to put either several different combos, 2 single cell if you want to try that, or 2 2-cells, or even 2 3-cells, and you might even be able to do a 4-cell if that's the case you want to do for those extra high-speed runs. The motor mount itself, you're going to see, is a slider cam motor mount. That sliding cam motor mount, and we'll get a better angle, I'll turn this a little bit more. There you go. Sliding cam motor mount is double screwed into place and can start off with a 16-tooth spur that comes in the kit, and you could probably go as far as 21 with the 42-tooth spur that comes into the car kit itself. And you're looking at the spool and the center diff. Of course, this diff area is full aluminum, but we also offer the rear one, and that also comes into full aluminum. So your center diff mount will have CNC aluminum trapping that spool in place so it doesn't cause any type of chatter and hurting the spur in short runs. All right. We'll turn the car around the other way, and we'll show the receiver mount or the servo mount and the receiver box. Of course, you're going to see right there. And that's a picture we'll see. That is a sealed box, of course, for the receiver. So you'll be able to store some of that wiring in there and the receiver itself, keeping it from harm from any type of moisture or any type of debris to get in there. Of course, the servo mount itself, we'll turn that over, is also integrated into the box. And it's only a 1-piece pod, so you'll be able to pull that off for some easy maintenance. I believe it's just 4 screws that holds it in place, and disconnecting the servo steering rod itself. Of course, there is a composite rod on here. You can use an option aluminum, but I actually like the composite one itself that comes with it. All right, we'll turn the car around and we'll look at the underside of the car. The underside of the chassis itself, you're going to see, is a full flat chassis from front to back. No kick-up angle on the chassis itself. All countersunk screws in there, and of course you can see in the middle the composite spur that's just peeking out of the bottom through there, but it's not actually protruding out of the chassis. It's very, very flush, or just above the flush line. Of course, there's multiple screws in there that you're going to see, and that's basically holding the motor mount and the stone guards and everything else that needs to be secured, including the differentials themselves. All right. And the last thing we'll show you is, of course, the CVDs that go down the middle. Also the same thing, they have measured sizes on there, and you can take a camera pan on any type of CVD that you have back here. It also comes with composite rear braces, front and back actually, so that there might be an option for it for aluminum, but they find that the composite ones work just great. And of course the wheels themselves, wheels and tires, you're going to see wheels and tires that are intermediate race groove tires. They're V-treaded, of course. We've done a couple runs on them, and they were pretty good at high-speed passes. And they'll come with a 2-split molded insert in there. And of course the wheel itself is black for the Pro and white for the RTR, the 6-spoke version. We'll put a body on this and show you what it looks like as it does with a full car kit that you would be able to see. Of course, putting your own electronics in and your own servo is basically just the end of that. Of course, we don't have any body mounts or holes into this body. Of course, it's going to slope a little bit higher. Of course, that's what you see when you see a finished product. You'll be able to put your own decals, a little bit more detail on it, and a nice V2 sticker on the side. So that's what you have, the new electric V2e Pro Roller. That is an 80% build, and thanks for joining.
This show has been sponsored by rcdeal.com. So remember, rcdeal.com for your RC auction and web store needs. It's rcdeal.com.